After 12 long years, I discovered the incredible reason my family finally came to my luxury home. Emma's fingers trembled as she hung up the phone. It felt surreal, almost like a scene from a soap opera. Her estranged father, the man who had dismissed her dreams, was critically ill. The walls of her elegant home felt suddenly too small, suffocating her with the weight of unresolved resentment and the longing for familial connection that had been buried deep within her for years. If only they'd seen her dedication, her struggles as a nurse, the sacrifices she'd made for her kids. But all they'd ever offered was judgment. The doorbell rang, and her heart raced. It was them. Her family stood like shadows on her doorstep, past grievances hanging thick in the air. Emma's pulse quickened. She remembered the laughter they'd shared before everything went dark. When she was just a girl dreaming of saving lives, not a weary single mother. The children peeked around her, their innocent eyes filled with curiosity and concern. Emma, her mother started, but the words caught in her throat as memories flooded back. Arguments over her career choice, whispers of failure that echoed long after the family gatherings had ceased. Resentment threatened to spill over as Emma pressed her lips together, fighting the urge to slam the door on them. Instead, she stepped back, allowing them into the life she had transformed with her own two hands. At dinner, the tension was as palpable as the aroma of roasted chicken. Emma forced small talk while her heart thudded. "How's work?" her father finally asked, his voice cracking like the ice in their relationship. "It's great. I opened my own practice," she replied, allowing pride to seep through. But he shifted, avoiding her gaze, and for a moment, Emma felt that old pain, his disapproval carved deeper than any wound. Then came the bombshell, dropped in a hushed conversation off to the side, as if it were a secret too shameful to share aloud. "Your father's illness, it's about the debt." "I never wanted you to find out," Emma's mother whispered, tears glistening like glass in her eyes. Her father's burdens weren't simply his shame, they ran deeper than any rift they had ever faced. A lifetime of choices had pushed them to the brink, leaving scars that no amount of money could heal. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Emma's chest tightened, a whirlwind of emotions raging inside her. This wasn't just about her father's illness, it shattered the very foundation of the values she had clung to. Was it her triumph alone that mattered, or was there room for healing and understanding? Her children watched, eyes wide, sensing the gravity of the moment. Could she forgive and let them back in? As the night wore on, laughter rang through the house, reminding Emma of better days. Those cherished memories flickered like fireflies, illuminating the dark corners of her heart. But even as she smiled, uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud. Healing didn't come easy, families were messy and complicated. Would she have to choose between the life she had fought so hard to build and the family bond that could still shape her future? In that moment of silence, a question hung between them in the air, heavy with unspoken words. Was it too late to bridge the gap, or would she find a way to blend her fierce independence with the family ties long severed? The answer felt tantalizingly close, yet painfully elusive, leaving Emma standing on the precipice of a choice that might change everything. Emma stared at her family, their faces a mixture of longing and regret. The laughter lingered in the air, but beneath it lurked the unspoken tension, ready to crack the fragile truce they had formed for the evening. Every smile felt like it was built on a foundation of ice, threatening to melt with the slightest sense of warmth or discomfort. "Maybe we should talk about Dad's health," Emma ventured, her voice quieter than she intended. She watched her mother's face tighten, recalling all the years lost to silence and misunderstanding. "I mean, what can we do to help?" Her mother clasped her hands tightly in her lap, as if she could hold back the sorrow with sheer will. "Emma, it's complicated. Your father, he's proud. He doesn't want pity from you. Or anyone for that matter." Emma felt her heart race. "But he needs us. You can't just let pride throw everything away." Her father's eyes, usually hard and distant, glimmered with the sorrow of a man wrestling with the weight of his mistakes. "I never wanted to burden you," he said, his voice low and heavy. "I thought if I could fight it alone, if I could just handle things like I always have, I wouldn't need anyone." The truth hit Emma like a crash wave. His attempts at independence had only driven a wedge deeper between them. "But Dad, I became someone because of you, because of the way you raised me." The table fell silent, the clattering of forks and knives abruptly still. The realization that her father's pride had kept him from recognizing her strength and achievements broke Emma's heart a little more. There it was, that old rift, laid bare again. "Do you remember when I first wanted to be a nurse?" Emma asked, nostalgia creeping into her voice. "You said I'd never make it." It didn't feel like a choice, it felt like a punishment. Pain clouded his eyes, and the hurt of the past bubbled up into the present. "I just wanted what was best for you. I thought medicine was a foolish dream. I see now how wrong I was." Emma felt a shift, a hairline fracture in the rigid facade he had kept for so long. There was vulnerability in that confession, and hope sparked somewhere deep inside her. "It's not too late, Dad. We can fix things." Her mother chimed in, voice quivering. "We want to rebuild this, but we need to be honest with each other. All of us. No more secrets." Emma's children, having remained silent up until now, exchanged glances. The weight of their family legacy felt like a stark, heavy cloud, but in that moment, a spark of courage flickered in Emma's heart. She could almost feel the warmth of reconciliation trying to push past years of hurt. As she watched their open faces, vulnerability began to spill over into cautious smiles. "You know," she said gently, "change starts with honesty. If you're willing to let me in, I promise to do the same." Her father nodded slowly, the effort visibly taxing him. "It's time I admit my mistakes. I'm sorry, Emma." With those words, hope twisted with caution. Would an apology be enough to heal the scars left unchecked? Then suddenly, the wall clock chimed loudly, interrupting the fragile moment. Each chime reverberated in Emma's chest, pulling her back to the reality of the ticking clock. Time was quickly slipping away, and there were shadows lurking, waiting to reclaim their hold. "Come on," Emma gulped, glancing back to her children. "Let us face this together. One step at a time. But I need to know if you're both willing to try." The room felt charged with potential yet saturated with uncertainty. They all hesitated at the brink, family reconnecting through frail words, emotions as delicate as glass. What Emma didn't see coming was the knock at the door, echoing through the heavy silence. Who could it be now? And would the arrival of this unexpected guest threaten the fragile peace they had just begun to weave? Emma's heart raced as the knock echoed again, a heavy thud reverberating through the dense air. She felt the unease thickening around them, the fragile steps they had taken now hanging by a thread, vulnerable to whatever lay beyond that door. The laughter and tension drained away, leaving an electric silence. "Who's that?" her mother whispered, glancing nervously toward the door. "I don't know," Emma admitted, her throat dry. She looked at her children, who were wide-eyed, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "Mom, should we see?" Sarah, her daughter, asked softly, not daring to break the unease too harshly. "Just a minute," Emma replied, the words almost caught in her throat. She stood slowly, her footsteps echoing against the floorboards as she walked toward the door. Every step felt like stepping deeper into unknown territory, where resolutions could crumble any moment. Taking a deep breath, she grasped the doorknob and turned it slowly, the creak of the hinges sounding almost ominous in the stillness. There, on the other side, stood a figure she hadn't seen in years. It was her older brother, Jake, his face worn but familiar. Tears already filled her eyes, emotions rushing back like a floodgate opening. "Jake?" She felt a mix of joy and disbelief. "Emma," he said, a moment of silence stretching between them as they absorbed the weight of this unexpected reunion. He stepped forward and pulled her into a tight embrace. "I heard about Dad. I wanted to be here." "Mama." Her son called, breaking the moment as he peeked around Emma's leg, his innocent face filled with surprise. "Come in," Emma finally managed, ushering him inside. Jake walked in hesitantly, like a stranger stepping into a place half-remembered. Everyone watched in stunned silence as they took him in, the walls of unspoken grudges and years separating them silently crumbling under the weight of his presence. They were family, but the years had forged new identities they were still learning to recognize. "Why now?" Emma asked, the urgency in her voice betraying how many questions lay behind this one. "After all this time?" His gaze darted toward their father, who sat silently at the table, his eyes betraying a mix of emotions. "I've had a lot of time to think, things aren't right between us, and it shouldn't have waited this long. You all needed me." Her heart sank and lifted in tandem. It felt like a reckoning she'd always wanted but never thought would arrive. But she also felt anger simmer beneath the surface, memories of hurt bubbling up to her consciousness. "It took you this long to see that?" "I know," Jake replied, sorrow etched on his face. "I can't change the past, but I want to try to fix what's broken starting now." Unsure of how to respond, Emma shifted her gaze back to her father. This was his moment to step forward or retract into the shadows again. Their dad's face was a storm of emotions: confusion, regret, and maybe even a hint of hope. "What does that mean for us?" Emma asked, feeling the weight of expectation shift in the air thickening around them. Just as Jake was about to answer, the room felt charged and alive, like the air was sparking with potential energy. Another knock interrupted them, more persistent this time, a reminder that the outside world was waiting, too. "What now?" her mother said softly, anxiety creeping back into her voice. Emma hesitated, knowing that those invisible lines they had so carefully brushed aside were suddenly vulnerable again. With Jake back in the mix, everything was changing. The door knocked again, louder this time, like a warning. Emma could feel a knot forming in her stomach, uncertainty clashing with the warmth of her brother's unexpected return. Who else could it be? As her heart raced, a thought struck her harder than the door itself. It wasn't just whose arrival could disrupt their fragile reconnection, but what other pieces of their family puzzle might still be missing? What other secrets could come tumbling into the light when the door opened again? Emma's hand hovered over the doorknob, her mind racing with a mix of anticipation and dread. The air tightened as uncertainty wrapped itself around her like a thick fog. She stole a glance at her brother, Jake, whose expression transformed from hope to worry, mirroring her own turmoil. "Mama?" Sarah's voice broke through the tension, a whisper of innocence that tangled with the heavier emotions swirling around. Emma couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth despite the storm brewing. The knock came again, sharp and insistent. Her heart pounded in her chest as she turned to face the door, the wooden surface both a barrier and a gateway. "I need to know," Emma whispered to herself. Taking a deep breath, she spoke just above a murmur, "I have to open it." Her fingers gripped the doorknob, and she twisted it slowly. As the door creaked open, a rush of cool air swept into the room, carrying with it an unsettling sense of new beginnings and potential upheavals. Standing on the doorstep was a man Emma had never expected to see. His face was familiar, yet foreign, lean and marked with years and burdens she could only imagine. It was her estranged uncle, Mark, who had been a ghost of family gatherings since that fateful fallout. "Emma," he breathed, stepping over the threshold, his presence filling the doorway like a shadow from the past that was threatening to engulf the light they had tried to restore. "Mark?" Her voice caught, a mix of disbelief and an unwavering nod. Memories of laughter turned bitter and their shared family lore crowded her mind. "What are you doing here?" "I heard about your father," Mark replied, his tone somber, the weight of what he carried evident in his eyes. "And I just couldn't stay away any longer." "More family showing up," Jake said, trying to inject some levity into the tension, but the attempt fell flat. Emma felt her heart twist further, caught between resentment and a cautious curiosity about why now, of all times, both her brother and uncle had returned. "Why now?" she challenged, looking at Mark with purpose. "Why after all these years?" "I made mistakes," he admitted, voice cracking. "I didn't show up when you needed me most, and I'm sorry." A deep silence settled, each of them grappling with unspoken words from years of anger and absence. Emma could see Jake tense beside her, a protective instinct flaring up again. Did they have the energy to handle everyone's burdens? Just then, Sarah nudged upward to examine the scene as she peered around Emma's leg, fueled by a child's innate curiosity. Is he a bad guy? She asked innocently, cutting through the thick air. A mixture of laughter and muffled sobs arose, a reminder of the youth still so close to their core, despite the chaos. Emma exchanged looks with Jake. They all bore the weight of these shared histories, the unclaimed childhood connections now resurfacing. I'm just your uncle who's trying to make things right, Mark clarified, addressing Sarah directly, his expression shifting to something softer, a glimpse of humanity breaking through his rough exterior, but Emma wasn't sure. You can't just walk in and expect. Before she could finish, another relentless knock echoed, shaking the moment anew. Everyone's attention swung toward the door, their collective breath holding in anticipation. Each knock seemed heavier than the last, a relentless reminder that choices awaited on the other side, choices that could change everything. Jake interjected, what else could possibly happen? We've already got 2 layers of surprises right here. Emma's heart pounded as she exchanged a look with her brother. What if it's another piece of our shattered past? She whispered, feeling the tremor in her own voice. The door hung open, and curiosity mingled with fear as uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud, ready to burst forth. What could possibly lie beyond? The atmosphere teetered on a knife's edge as another vigorous knock resonated through the room. Emma felt the tremor of anxiety ripple through her. She couldn't shake the thought of what or who could be on the other side. Should I open it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the words hanging in the charged silence. Mark's brow creased, and he shot a glance at Jake, searching for a cue. Maybe we need to face whatever is there together, he suggested, his tone cautious yet pleading. With a nod, Jake stepped forward, uniting their resolve. I'm with you, Em. Whatever it is. Emma took a deep breath, leaning on her brother's unwavering support. Slowly, she leaned into the door, the old wood creaking softly under her weight. On 3? Jake whispered, squeezing Emma's shoulder tightly. On 3, she repeated, her heart hammering in her chest. 1, 2, 3. With a firm push, Emma swung the door wide open, her breath hitching as she faced the unexpected figure standing before her. A woman stood there, her face framed by dark, curly hair and accented by warm hazel eyes that sparkled with uncertainty. Emma's breath caught as she recognized her Catherine, their childhood neighbor, and someone who seemed a fixture in their lives long ago but hadn't been seen in years. Catherine? Emma breathed, clutching the doorframe as a wave of emotion crashed against her. Memories of hastily made forts and summer laughter flooded back, sharp and vivid. I am so sorry for just showing up, Catherine stammered. I heard the news about your dad, and I felt like I needed to come. I wanted to be here for you. Sarah peeked from behind Emma's leg, her big brown eyes scanning the stranger. Where's your backpack? She asked, her innocent curiosity a light-hearted tether in the tension swirling around them. Catherine knelt down, her demeanor instantly softening. I left it at home, kiddo. But I brought some cookies as a peace offering. She pulled a box of homemade treats from behind her back, and the warm smell of chocolate wafted into the air. Sarah's face lit up, and Emma felt her own tension easing, just a little. But how did you know? Emma finally asked, her heart fluttering with questions. It's been so long since everything changed. I know, Catherine replied gently, standing up and brushing off her knees. I didn't know how to reach out after you know. But I've missed you all. I thought maybe you could help. Jake finished for her, his voice steady. Emma looked at her brother, sensing his unyielding support. Yes, Catherine responded, her voice trembling with hope. I want to help. I want to be here for you. Silence enveloped them as the weight of history and unresolved emotions swirled, yet there was an undeniable spark of connection rekindled. The air felt charged, as if they were standing on the brink of something significant, a chance to reshape their fractured world. Emma felt a flicker of courage ignite within her. Maybe this was what they needed, more pieces to help weave their fragmented lives back together. But as they stood at the crossroads of the past and future, another knock thundered behind them, reminding them that this moment was far from settled. Jake met Emma's gaze, his expression torn but resolute. "Do we open it again?" he asked quietly, uncertainty creeping back. Emma felt her heart race even faster. What if it's another ghost of our past? The idea ignited a flicker of panic and anticipation. Just like before, they were at the brink of discovery. But the real question lingered: would they have the strength to confront whatever lay beyond that door next? Emma's heartbeat filled her ears, drowning out everything but the sudden thud of her emotions. Catherine's presence was both soothing and surreal. The memories they shared ignited a warmth in her chest, yet the next knock snapped her back to the looming uncertainty. "Maybe it's just the wind?" Mark suggested hesitantly, though they all knew better. "No," Jake said, determination creeping back into his voice. "We've faced ghosts already. We can handle whatever this is." Emma shook her head, fear mounting alongside the hope creeping into her heart. She glanced at Catherine, who crouched down again beside Sarah, who seemed mesmerized with the cookie box swung open in front of her. Emma could see the nerves flitting through Catherine's expression. They all needed reassurance. They were standing on thin ice, trying to keep their footing. "Let us do it together," Emma finally resolved. She turned back to the door, igniting a brave front. They were about to rewrite their story, after all. 1, 2, 3. She couldn't help but feel the bond strengthening among them as they opened the door. As the door creaked open, the cool air rushed in, shoving against Emma's skin. There, standing in the threshold, was a shadow cloaked in grief. It was a man, taller than every memory she could conjure, his shoulders sagging under an invisible burden that felt almost tangible. "Dad?" Emma exhaled, disbelief coating her voice. The moment hung heavy in the air. With each blink, Emma hoped it was just a figment of her imagination. But there he stood, their estranged father, so much time and sorrow condensed into a single figure before them, filling the room with a mix of sorrow and hope. His voice trembled, yet it carried the weight of every moment they spent apart. "I've come to talk." Jake stepped protectively in front of Emma, his expression a mixture of anger and confusion. "You left us. You chose to go. I know. And I can't take it back. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought you'd be better off without me." "Better off?" Emma echoed, her voice cracking. "You had no idea what we've been through." Catherine straightened up, her eyes darting between the family reunion unraveling before her. "Maybe now's not the time to rehash the past. Let us focus on what's happening now," she urged. Emma felt grateful for Catherine, her presence both a balm and a buffer, yet another wave of emotion crashed down. Nostalgia flooded her senses, mixing with the pain of years lost. Could they find any shred of healing among all this turmoil? "Just give me a chance." Her father's voice broke through her thoughts, pleas tumbling from his lips. "I want to explain why I'm here." His words lingered in the air, a fragile hope hanging by a thread. But Emma felt the crack forming in her heart again, wondering if forgiveness waited just beyond the surface. "Wait." Sarah's small voice cut through the tension, her innocence bright against the dark cloud of adult complexities. "Can we eat cookies first?" Laughter erupted in an awkward mixture of relief and disbelief. The room's tension frayed, if only for a moment. Emma looked at her father, who was still waiting with uncertainty etched across his face, and she was torn. Could they truly start anew after all this time? But before anyone could respond, a new knock echoed, louder and more insistent than the first. Emma's stomach twisted, anxiety intertwining with the flicker of hope already kindled. "Not again," Jake muttered under his breath, eyes shadowed with dread. They were standing at the very edge now. Whatever was behind that door could shake everything they had just begun to redefine. "Should we?" Emma asked, glancing at Catherine, Jake, and then back at her father, unsure of whether to unearth another wound or fortify the fragile peace forming around them. All together, Jake confirmed, determination rising in their voices once more, as if ready to face whatever storm awaited them. But what they hadn't anticipated was the truth about to unravel from the door that could change everything yet again. Emma's hand hovered over the doorknob, her heart racing. They were all standing close, the air thick with a mixture of fear, hope, and something unnameable. Each of them held their breath, the tension perfectly palpable. With a single movement, Jake pushed the door fully open, and the reality that awaited them felt like a punch to the gut. Staring back at them was a woman, lips pursed tightly, hair pulled back in a low bun that seemed almost severe. She looked out of place, as if she had stepped out of a time machine from another era. Her eyes were glassy, reflecting an emotion that looked like determination but felt like desperation. "Excuse me," she said firmly, steeling herself as she locked eyes with Emma. "I need to talk to your father." The room fell silent, the suddenness of her presence grounding everyone like a weight pressing down on their shoulders. Emma's father stood frozen, expression caught between surprise and fear. For a flicker of a moment, Emma felt an urge to step in front of him, to shield him from whatever storm this woman might unleash. "Who are you?" Emma managed to ask, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm Margaret," she replied, her tone sharp yet weary. "I'm here because I have something important to reveal. It's about your mother." Emma's heart dropped. Her mother was a ghost wrapped in layers of memories, veiled in sorrow and confusion, a sadness she had carried since they last saw her. The conversation shifted away from how her father had abandoned them to a discussion Emma had never expected to have. "What do you know about her?" Jake barked, still protective, his stance wide. Margaret's gaze flicked to Jake, then back to Emma. "Enough to know that for 12 years, she's been searching for him. She can't move forward until there's closure. You deserve to hear the truth." "What truth?" Emma could barely form the words, her mind was racing, grappling with the whirlwind of emotions. "Your parents' story isn't over. There are pieces missing. I've been working with her, and frankly, she needs to talk to him." The revelation crashed over Emma like a relentless wave, further complicating the narrative she had built around her childhood. Until now, they had been an unfinished puzzle, edges frayed. But now, a new piece had dropped into her lap, and it was colossal. Emma glanced at her father, who stood engulfed in shock. She reached for his hand, suddenly aware of how cold it felt beneath her fingers. "Is this true?" He blinked, his voice strained. She never what?" Margaret interjected sharply. "You never wanted to know her side? To understand what brought the two of you here?" Emma could see the flicker of regret in her father's eyes. "I thought she was happier without me." Anguish clawed at Emma's chest. Could her mother have really searched for him? Did she harbor the same lingering questions? Sarah, still holding the cookie box, tugged on Emma's shirt. "Can we have cookies now?" Emma couldn't help but laugh softly, the innocence of Sarah's request cutting through the heavy atmosphere surrounding them. "Later, okay?" Her focus shifted back to Margaret. "You're saying my mom's been looking for him? All this time?" "Yes," Margaret nodded gravely. "I've seen the effects of that absence. It's time for a conversation that can heal some wounds." Emma felt torn again, the conflicting desires to protect her father from scrutiny and give her mother the voice she had been longing for battling inside her. She hadn't just thought of her father leaving, she had also convinced herself her mother had moved on. "What do we do now?" she finally asked, feeling the pieces slipping around her like grains of sand. "I think we need to gather everyone together." Margaret spoke with a quiet insistence. "This can only end one way, together." The air swirled with uncertainty, but Emma could feel a faint pulse of hope. Could this really lead to a resolution? Would her family finally get the closure they needed? But then, another knock echoed through the doors, firm and echoing, penetrating their fragile bubble once more. None of them dared to breathe. Hearts clenched, knowing this was just the beginning of a much larger and tangled web of truths that had yet to unravel. The room held its breath as another knock reverberated against the wood like thunder. Emma's stomach flip-flopped. She shared a glance with her father, a silent conversation laced with uncertainty and dread. Every second felt stretched, as if time itself was waiting to see what was about to unfold. Margaret's expression hardened, her posture straightening as if preparing for a battle, teeth clenched and gaze unwavering. We need to face whoever that is. It might be important, she urged, the weight of her conviction slicing through the silence. Jake moved forward cautiously, motioning for Emma to stay back. She nodded, though her heart pounded in her chest, a relentless rhythm thrumming in her ears. Whoever it is, they cannot know, her father began, but the rest of his thought was lost, swallowed by the unsettling atmosphere. Just as Jake reached for the handle, the door swung open abruptly, revealing a man with tousled hair and an unmistakable heat in his gaze. Emma felt a jolt of recognition. It was Dan, her mother's brother, the uncle she had never met. "Where's Sarah?" Dan's voice was thick with urgency. His eyes darted over the scene, landing lastly on Emma's father, whose face was ghostly pale. "Dan," Margaret breathed, already knowing the storms his arrival would bring. She took a step forward. "We were just enough. I don't care. I need to speak to her." "Where's my sister?" Dan's voice rose, trembling but fierce, cutting the air like a knife. The tension thickened to a choking haze, wrapping around Emma's throat. Emma took a step forward, daring to break the mounting fear. "Uncle Dan, you Emma." He eyed her with a mix of recognition and disbelief. "You don't know what's happening. Your mother is in danger." The words felt like ice, leaving Emma breathless. "Danger? What do you mean?" Dan glanced quickly at her father, his jaw tightening. "Your father, he asked not to blame." Emma interrupted, feeling the desperation bubble inside her. "I need to know what's going on." He regarded her with a heavy expression, emotions storming beneath the surface. "Your mother's ordeal, the truth behind their past, it isn't just about them anymore." The implications hung in the air like smoke. Emma's heart raced, the pieces of this intricate puzzle finally seeming to swirl dangerously close together. She had imagined her mother's journey through a simple lens of loss, but this promised so much more confusion and potential danger. The dial upon their shared past turned sharply, and Emma felt as if she were being pulled into a whirlpool of secrets that begged to be uncovered. "More importantly, I need to tell you why she's been searching for him." Dan took a breath, his eyes pleading for Emma's understanding. Each word dipped in weight, conjuring endless questions that began to pull at Emma's mind. "Can we gather everyone now, please?" Margaret asked, tension lacing her voice. Jake, looking deep in thought, nodded slowly, aware this was a moment that would change everything. As they began to find seats around the room, Emma stepped closer to her uncle. "Is Mom really okay?" For a fleeting moment, doubt flickered across Dan's face, a shadow of uncertainty that sent prickles of fear through Emma. "She needs to be found first. I can't lose her again, not like this." Every beat of Emma's heart resonated with urgency. "Then we'll find her together." As the door creaked shut, sealing in the echoes of their secrets, the weight of family ties circled like a pendulum, swinging between pain and possibility. The circle formed, and with it came the anticipation of what was about to unfold. Emma felt her breath quicken as she prepared to grapple with the truth. But just as the gathering began, a sound reverberated from outside, the unmistakable ring of sirens growing closer. Emma's heart plummeted. What could possibly follow that? She glanced at her family, the tension unspooling between them. Could the truth bring them together, or tear them apart once and for all? The sirens echoed outside, sharp and insistent. Emma's pulse quickened in time with their wail, a foreboding anthem to the chaos that had suddenly invaded their fragile world. She could feel the dread pooling in her stomach, thick and heavy, as uncertainty took hold. Dan stood tall but shaken, his expression a mix of anger and fear. "They're getting closer," he muttered, almost to himself. His eyes darted toward the window, the shadows of flashing red and blue lights spilling into the room through the edges of drawn curtains. "Who is it?" Jake's voice was steady, a rock amidst the rising tide of tension, but it held an undercurrent of concern. "What do they want?" Dan clenched his fists, a brief flare of frustration lighting his features. "They could be looking for Sarah," he replied, voice low but sharp. "Or they could be after the truth about everything." Margaret shot Emma an anxious glance. "We need to stay calm," she urged. panicking. 1T, help us. But her voice was strained, not entirely convincing. Emma's breath quivered as she wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the weight of their shared history pressing down on her. Every secret, every silence, every unanswered question filled the space like a heavy fog. What truth? Emma's own voice trembled as she posed the question that had hovered just beyond her reach since Dan's arrival. Everyone knew something she didn't, something that pulled the strings binding their family together in ways she was desperate to comprehend. The silence settled like dust over a forgotten room, thick and oppressive. Dan finally turned his full attention to Emma. You need to know that the past isn't just behind us, it's caught up with us. And it could rip us apart if we don't confront it. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. There are things about our family, about your mother's choices, that have made her a target. We have to figure out who is after her and why, before it's too late. A sharp gasp escaped Emma's lips, and she searched her uncle's face for answers. You mean people want to hurt her? Dan nodded grimly. Yes. We can't let them find her. Not now. Not after everything. Margaret took a step closer to Emma, her presence radiating warmth and protection, but Emma could see the worry lines etched into her mother's face. We're going to get through this, Emma, she said softly, though the promise felt fragile. Outside, the sirens faded for a moment before abruptly swelling back into existence, a distant reminder of the encroaching danger that seemed poised to break through the confines of their sanctuary. Emma, Jake said, his voice cutting through the tension, what do you remember about your mother? Anything she might have said in the past, something that might connect to this? Emma's mind raced through snatched memories. Sudden conversations stopped mid-sentence, her mother's gaze lingering on old photographs, quiet phone calls where she felt the weight on the other side. She talked about wanting to protect us. And always kept her past a secret, Emma murmured slowly, each word feeling like a stone dropping into the depths of an unknown abyss. Dan's eyes widened slightly. Then we need to dig deeper into her past. Those secrets hold the keys to finding her and keeping her safe. Tension hung thick in the air as Emma met Dan's urgent gaze, determination blooming against the backdrop of fear. Whatever it takes, she whispered, feeling the stirrings of resolution warring with the fear creeping along her spine. But just as the plan began to form, a loud crash echoed from outside, and they all turned to the window, hearts pounding. Emma's breath caught in her throat. What was that? She breathed, panic igniting in her veins. The night was about to unfold its secrets, and there was no turning back. The sirens blared into the chaos, hinting at a storm far more dangerous than any of them had ever imagined. As they exchanged glances, each one crackling with unspoken words, Emma felt a deep pit of dread settle in her stomach. What if it wasn't just the truth waiting for them, but danger lurking just beyond the door? The moment stretched, heavy and taut, and Emma knew, whatever came next, it was going to change everything. Emma's heart raced as the chaos outside surged closer. The crash had ripped through what little calm they had managed to clutch, and fear coiled tightly in her stomach. She turned to Dan, who wore an expression like that of a cornered animal, ready to bolt. Stay calm, Margaret urged again, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her own worries. Emma felt the adrenaline pump through her veins, every instinct screaming for action. Uncle Dan, what do we do? She pressed, her words blending urgency with a desperate need for guidance. Dan's eyes darted toward the windows, assessing the shadows outside as sirens blared closer. We don't panic. We huddle together, protect each other. If they're searching for your mother, we can't let them get inside. Each word struck Emma like an electric current. They couldn't let any unfamiliar presence in until they figured out what had happened. But the tension was palpable, and the sirens' wails echoed the mounting dread. What if it's too late? Jake's voice cracked, the protective brother surface breaking under duress. Emma squeezed his hand, squeezing back the tremors threatening to unravel her resolve. We've come too far to fall apart now, she murmured. The knocking on the door continued, persistent and frantic. It almost felt like a countdown, their family hanging in limbo with every strike. Emma took a deep breath, gathering her will. On 3, no. Dan interrupted, eyes flaring with intensity. What if it's them? Then we face them together, Jake replied defiantly, his expression fierce as he stepped protectively in front of Emma. Emma knew he was right, but still, fear washed over her. What lay behind that door? Before she could voice her worries, another crash resonated from outside, driving them all back like ripples in the water. This is not just about us anymore, Dan insisted, a fervor glinting in his gaze. We need to know what they want before we confront them. Emma felt the weight of countless uncertainties slapping against her consciousness. If it's about Mom, then we can't stay hidden, she said, conviction lacing her tone. We need her back. As if summoned by her determination, the knocking returned, but with a different rhythm altogether. Shouting accompanied it now. Open up. We need to talk. The voice was harsh, unyielding, and cold. Emma's stomach twisted with every syllable that echoed through the heavy air. Emma, whatever happens, we stick together, Jake stated firmly, leaving no room for doubt. Emma nodded, drawing strength from him and the others. She took one step forward, then another, her heart a drumbeat in her chest. Okay, together, she repeated, more for herself than anyone else. Emma reached for the doorknob, feeling the pulse beneath her fingertips, the pulse of not just their family, but the pulse of the future that lay in the balance. With a collective breath, Emma turned the knob and flung the door open. 3 officers stood on the threshold, urgency etched into their steely expressions. The tension in the air burst like a bubble. We have to speak with you about your mother, one of them said, his voice sharp against the cacophony outside. Is she okay? Emma's voice trembled, hope and fear writhing within. Your mother's safety is at risk. We need your assistance, the officer continued, the gravity of his words swinging heavy around them. In that moment, everything else faded away, the fears, the past disappointments, every secret and wound wound tight in their lives. What lay ahead required active participation to save the one they sought, their mother, who had become the linchpin for change. With you, she whispered, stepping aside for her family to join her, the determined look in her eyes mirrored by her brother and uncle. We'll help. Just tell us what to do. The officer nodded, glancing between them, and Emma realized a new journey was unfolding, one forged not just from blood ties but from newfound resolve. They would not only face the shadows but would fight to reclaim their family story. As they stepped into the evening air, the wails of sirens faded behind them. Shifting into the promise of a fight, a chance to rewrite their past and hold their family together against whatever dark force lay ahead. A chilling breeze filled the night, carrying whispers of battles yet to come. Emma clutched her brother's hand tighter, feeling the pulse of their shared determination. They were all in this together now, the journey back to the light had officially begun. Now, take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that unfold. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and help us reach even more viewers. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this ending. Your involvement blows life into this community.